for parents who have a little bit of financial means and who have the time, they're able to sort of see like, okay, where is my kid struggling? How can I maybe get them therapy? How can I, potentially they have the financial means to be able to pay for that out of pocket, or they have the health insurance to pay for it. But lower income families, they don't always have that. In a lot of cases, the services that their kids get come through the school. And so there's a real need for funding those services. And those services were underfunded before the pandemic started. Schools were underfunded before the pandemic started. And those problems have really gotten worse because a lot of speech therapy, things like this, just weren't happening during lockdown. So everybody's playing catch up. There's more demand than ever. Everybody really talks about just this incredible increased need, and especially for kids who don't have a lot of financial resources in their family.
Still, a lot of the experts, as we've been talking about, say they don't think these will be lifelong problems. Kids are so resilient, and by and large, right, almost all schools now are in person again, so there is that time to rebuild all that. I know you followed a lot of kids and went to a lot of different schools and kind of seen what was going on, spoke to a lot of parents and teachers, just observing all that. How did you see the kids? How did you see the youngest of them and the way they interact now?
Yeah, I think, at the preschool that I visited, I was struck, it's interesting that researchers have had these concerns and teachers have had these concerns, because there also was the sense when I was in that preschool classroom that things are pretty normal. These were kids who were interacting with each other. They were kids who were playing and having fun. They were kids who were like squabbling and arguing the way kids squabble and argue, and like making up the way kids make up. So it's not, I don't want to overstate any of this and say, kids don't know how to be kids anymore, or they don't know how to play together anymore, because that's not true. And I think it's wonderful to see, what educators are doing with kids and how they're sort of helping them get back into the world. I think the message of resiliency is really important. And, if anything, I think what we should take from this is, yes, these youngest kids might need some help in terms of making up for things that they've lost, but that help is really valuable, and they can get back on track, and they can really bounce back from this.
Anna North, senior correspondent at Vox, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on Kfi Am 640. When we come back, we'll tell you about the anti-cult activism of Ginny Thomas.
Check the mail for Valpak, and you could be an instant winner. That's right, tucked in with those coupons is your chance to win big. From cash and gift cards to attraction and concert tickets. Every month is something new with prizes for the whole family. Go ahead, open that blue envelope of savings to see if you've won. Because with Valpak Instant Win, there's nothing to buy or do to cash in. Just thousands of real winners winning real prizes, no strings attached. No purchase necessary, void or prohibited. Prizes are randomly inserted. See specially marked Valpak envelopes for details.
Our windows have a story to tell, shouldn't yours?
My name's Mike Jackson. Elias Ariola. What sets American Vision Windows apart is their investment in their employees.
The Bill and Kathleen way is investing in you, and it's contagious.
They were always putting back in the company, and that's why this company is where it's at today.
American Vision Windows continues to revolutionize the home improvement industry, one customer at a time, while changing the lives of our employees for the better.
Happy employees, happy customers.
My old windows heated it up like a brick oven, and now it's completely climate controlled. Can you tell I love these guys?
See the difference that new windows can make in your home.
For a limited time, American Vision Windows offers a whole house of windows for $99 a month or free expert installation. Call 888-226-9908.
Catch the vision, American Vision Windows.
For all offers, call or see website for details. Offer expires 6/30/2022. CSLB number 778326.
Did you know that one of the oldest weightlifters in the world is 100 years old? That shows you can be old and strong. But if you live in an older house, one built before 1980, it's more likely to be damaged in the next big California earthquake. So, strengthen your home against earthquake damage with a seismic retrofit. The process is simpler than you think. Visit strengthenmyhouse.com to learn more, because we embrace old but strong. That's strengthenmyhouse.com.
Hey, SoCal. Going out for a drink? I'm attorney Darren Kapinoki of 1-800-NO-CUFFS. Better have your seatbelt on, your front license plate attached, and your registration handy. Don't give them a reason. 1-800-NO-CUFFS. Because no one looks good in handcuffs, unless you're into that sort of thing. 1-800-NO-CUFFS.
The experts at AMCO have been fixing cars for almost 60 years. Over that time, they've gotten more complex than ever. That's why our techs undergo rigorous training and certifications, so they can fix anything, including the most complicated repairs that come with some of the latest technologies. After 60 years, there's nothing we haven't seen or fixed. It's how we know cars inside and out. AA, MCO. Check engine light on? We'll check it for free.
Make this the year you go to our iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com.
A weekend full of superstar performances, never seen before collaboration, and once-in-a-lifetime moments you'll have to see to believe.
Friday, September 23rd and Saturday the 24th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas.
Our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Buy your tickets now at AXS.com.
Portions of the following program will be recorded.
Iron Chef's nice to watch, yes. Yeah. What's burning in the kitchen is my mom's cooking show. Did your mom and dad used to you put the shoes in the oven, just to dry out in the winter, and then they forgot they were in the oven.
Burned everything. And my mom used to serve them. Yeah.
Big dog! All right, here we go. Jersey cold winters. Yes.
It's the Tim Conway Jr. Show. Weeknights at 6 on KFI.
That one I'm impressed with myself with.
Sometimes I'm not. Most of the time I'm not.
That, handle, you're damn good at this. I'm telling you, I'm speaking to myself now. Tell you know what? Let's take a break. I'll just keep on congratulating myself. Bill, you're just terrific. You're a great human being.
Bill Handel.
So smart.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
I know the weight of the world seems to rest on your shoulders, and sometimes life seems like it's filled only with confusion and chaos. But I assure you, I have a plan for you.
The Jesus Christ Show. This morning at 6 on KFI.
AM 640.
More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. Finally, for this week, we'll tell you about the anti-cult activism of Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. She focused on this work after a deprogramming she went through after she fell in with a group she considered a cult. She was involved with an organization called LifeSpring, which advertised training seminars that could help unlock hidden potential. The group is accused of breaking participants down mentally, and one man reportedly had a psychotic break. For more on how Thomas got out and the controversial world of anti-cult activism, we'll speak to Alex Seitz-Wald, senior politics reporter at NBC News.
This is a wild story and definitely a rabbit hole that my colleague Alan Smith and I fell down. And it came up because Thomas has been shown to be sort of bought into what appears to be QAnon type stuff, which has also been called a cult. So basically, in the 80s, Ginny Thomas was a lawyer. She was just moved to Washington, and she got involved with this group called LifeSpring. That was a sort of new age self-help group. They would put people through these very intense trainings, kind of psychologically break them down with the goal that you could supposedly unlock superhuman potential in you. And after you did the first training, they would of course say, well, you got to come back and do the second one, the third one, like Scientology or NXIVM or any of these groups. And eventually some people became so involved, they essentially started working for the group, and it became kind of their whole life. And Ginny Thomas was one of those people. There's a Washington Post expose in 1987 that she spoke to the reporter. She was a lobbyist for the Chamber of Commerce at the time, and she said she became so intellectually involved with the group that it was poisoning her relationships with her friends, her coworkers, her family, because they didn't recognize her, and she was trying to sell them these trainings. So she contacted a deprogrammer. That was a practice that's fallen out of favor, but the idea was that people in cults were brainwashed, and they needed to be essentially unbrainwashed to get out. It was a long process. She had to move across the country at one point because she was getting inundated by calls from other members of this group trying to bring her back into the fold. And through this experience, she became an anti-cult activist. She organized trainings on Capitol Hill. She spoke out publicly. She was a politically connected lawyer. So she used those skills and those connections to help advance the anti-cult agenda, which at the time had its own controversy.
Yeah, definitely. And these the cults and organizations like this are always so fascinating to me. And you mentioned it, Nexium is one of those ones that a lot of people might be more familiar with a lot more recently because it was in the news. But some of these experts call these things large group awareness trainings. And as you mentioned, it's kind of in the guise of self-help and unlocking potential and whatnot. Tell us a little bit more about what happened with LifeSpring, because things, once they start hitting the public, things start going wrong. I guess there were several trainees that died in there. Yeah. There was settlements, there was lawsuits, and that's what kind of really caused the downfall of at least that organization.
Yeah, that's right. And there's been a whole bunch of what experts call these large group awareness trainings, and they're all kind of some variation on the same idea. There was also, you might remember, the sweat lodge guru, where I think people died in Arizona back in like 2009. And all of them do some version of putting people through very intense experiences. They might have you walk on hot coals, or Jane Thomas said that in the LifeSpring group, they would have the entire group stripped down to their underwear, and then everybody would take turns pointing at and shaming one person at a time. Basically, whatever they could do to really break you down. There was two psychologists who went in and undercover did one of these trainings, and they witnessed a guy have a psychotic break in front of everyone. Instead of helping him, the organizers just berated him and said that it was his fault that he was having this psychotic break. You mentioned that a couple people died. These weren't cases where there was violence, but the most famous case, there was a woman who had an asthma attack, and they would not let her go to her car and get her inhaler because they said that she could overcome the asthma attack if she just worked harder. She didn't, and she died. They prevented her from seeking help. They had to settle for $450,000 with the family. So most of these groups end up going defunct through either lawsuits or sometimes criminal action, like with Nexium, and they can create a culture where the leaders of these groups can get really rich and powerful, right, and sometimes do some really gross or bad things with the people that they have under their control.
Let's talk a little bit about the other side, because you mentioned it, the deprogrammer. So Ginny Thomas herself said she saw a deprogrammer, that through the help of that, this was able to help her get out of all of this stuff. But, that's not without its own controversy. A lot of these deprogrammers, or at least the way it was working early on in kind of this, as these things started taking hold, they were accused of kidnapping people, basically, because it's hard to get somebody out of an organization. So I guess they would take a person away, hide them away, deprive them of food and water, even anything to kind of make something click in their head to get them out of whatever they'd been practicing already for so long.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this was a thing that I was completely unaware of. I was just fascinated as we were, researching and exploring this story. So keep in mind, this is after the Jonestown massacre in '79, when a U.S. congressman went down to investigate what was happening at this compound of a U.S.-based cult. Everybody died. There was they committed suicide. They killed the congressman. This is where the term "drink the Kool-Aid" comes from. There was a string of these kind of mass suicides. So there was this big national panic that was justified in getting very concerned about these cults, and to a lot of parents, it seemed like their kids would just disappear into these organizations, never to be heard from again. So the anti-cult movement rose up in its place, but the problem was it was these self-trained, self-appointed people, and there was no real oversight or authority watching this, and because they had kind of the moral authority on their side, they got away with a lot of stuff that in hindsight looks really bad. Yeah. They would have parents, and there was a range of people. So the person that Jay Thomas worked with, he's passed away. We've no evidence that he engaged in any of this. He seemed to just be more of kind of a counselor, like you would do a drug intervention. But a lot of these people, including the people who were running this group that Ginny Thomas got involved with, would do these active deprogramming. They call them involuntaries, because they would literally, they call it snatch, but the ACLU and many other people call it kidnapping. They would literally kidnap people at the behest of their parents and take them away. And the belief was, because they were brainwashed, they had to snap out of it, and you had to, you can picture Clockwork Orange, where they hold your eyes open. They had to do whatever it took to get you out of this. And the case that kind of ended this was a man who got abducted outside of his mother's house, 2 days later, 3 days later, 4 days later, 5 days later, 6 days later, 7 days later, 8 days later, 9 days later, 10 days later, 11 days later, 12 days later, 13 days later, 14 days later, 15 days later, 16 days later, 17 days later, 18 days later, 19 days later, 20 days later, 21 days later, 22 days later, 23 days later, 24 days later, 25 days later, 26 days later, 27 days later, 28 days later, 29 days later, 30 days later, 31 days later, 32 days later, 33 days later, 34 days later, 35 days later, 36 days later, 37 days later, 38 days later, 39 days later, 40 days later, 41 days later, 42 days later, 43 days later, 44 days later, 45 days later, 46 was held at a remote beach house for 5 days with very little food and water. They wouldn't let him sleep. I mean, kind of like the enhanced interrogation tactics we used in Guantanamo Bay. And then he finally feigned acceptance. He said, you're right, you know, I've come out of it. They took him to dinner to celebrate, and then he went to the bathroom and actually ran away to the police and ended up suing. It became this huge thing, ton of media attention, and that kind of ended the practice of deprogramming. But when Ginny Thomas was involved, this was a very common practice. One survey, 40% of cult members were abducted, and they wrestled with this. So we have video that we obtained of the head of the group that she was involved with Ginny Thomas on the stage there saying, are we doing the right thing? It's tough to know, but we think we're on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, and it's even changed the industry since then. Right now they position themselves kind of as exit counselors of something more familiar, kind of like a drug or alcohol intervention. You know, everything's changed when a bunch of lawsuits start popping up. And then so now, you know, connecting the dots to some of this QAnon stuff, that's, you know, some of why the curiosity of some of the actions that Ginny Thomas was taking, you know, around the time of the election and all that, and some of the stuff she was texting to lawmakers, all that stuff, coming out of the talking points of a lot of the QAnon stuff that we're seeing. And as you mentioned in the article, you know, some people have referred to it as a cult. You know, who knows if it is technically one. A lot of this stuff just takes place on online message boards. But again, you know, some people question how Ginny Thomas might have been sucked into some of these things.
As one person put it to me, I can't believe she fell for it again. That was a lawyer who specialized in suing cults on behalf of ex-cult members, and he worked with Thomas. He knew her. He said she was a smart person, and he was shocked that she did this. But other people that we spoke with who knew her said, well, there is a well-known thing in psychology that, you know, if you fall victim to one of these groups, if you're prone to believing in one of these things, you're prone to believing in others. The best indicator of if somebody is prone to conspiracy theories is if they already believe in another conspiracy theory. And she spoke openly in one of these panels that we obtained video of in 1987. It was a panel of this anti-focus. She spoke openly about how she had to do some introspection and think internally about what made her vulnerable to this group.
Okay. Great size. Henry Kimsey. Keisha. Oh. Classes for
Climb inside the 2011 Audi A3. Delivering breathtaking performance, sumptuous accommodations, and jaw-dropping good looks.
2-liter turbocharged gas engine was named one of Ward's 10 best engines for the 5th year in a row, as well as an International Engine of the Year for the 5th time. The available TDI clean diesel engine decreases CO2 emissions while providing impressive fuel economy.
Audi perfected each and every component on the exterior surface. A confident footprint is created via the 17-inch alloy wheels. A rear spoiler is included, providing athletic, sporty flair.
The interior of this vehicle is nothing short of spectacular, treating occupant comfort with paramount concern. Audi infused the interior with top-shelf amenities, such as a rear window wiper, a trip computer, and cruise control.
The audio system features Audi Concert Radio with Sirius satellite radio. It provides 140 watts of power, MP3 capability, a CD player, an SD card slot, and auxiliary input. Audi also prioritized safety and security by including anti-whiplash front head restraints, a security system, and 4-wheel disc brakes with ABS. For added security, dynamic stability control supplements the drivetrain.
The 2011 Audi A3. Delivering style and power in a single package.